The Vorath fleet moved through the void like a shadow of death. Their ships, black and jagged, stretched across kilometers of space. No one in the galaxy dared resist them. Planets fell silently, their populations surrendering before a single shot was fired. The Vorath commanders called it the art of conquest without war. On the surface of the planet Carrion 4, civilians had gathered in the central square. Fear glimmered in their eyes, but resignation was stronger. They held out their weapons and technology. They knew the Vorath would take everything anyway. A single alien landing pod descended, and the silence was broken by the Vorath voice booming across loudspeakers. People of Carrion 4, surrender your weapons and resources. Your compliance will bring you safety. Resistance is meaningless. No one moved. No one dared fight. Within hours, the planet was under Vorath control. Not a shot had been fired. Not a life had been lost. The Vorath were pleased. This had been their way for decades. The galaxy thought them unstoppable. Far from the Vorath fleet, in the small, almost forgotten human system of Solara 7, a very different scene unfolded. The human destroyer, Intrepid, floated in silence above a rocky moon. Its hull was battered but carefully repaired with unconventional modifications. Solar panels jutted at odd angles, strange energy conduits lined the sides, and weapons no one outside humanity had ever seen blinked softly in the darkness. On the bridge, Commander Lyra Hayes stood with her arms crossed, looking at the starfield. She was human, yes, but she carried the weight of her entire crew on her shoulders. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp. Every star, every shadow, every sensor reading mattered to her. Lieutenant Jax, the ship's tactical officer, approached, nervously. "Commander, reports say the Vorath fleet is moving toward the Hestara cluster. They'll reach the outer systems in less than 12 hours. Civilians there are unprepared." Lyra's jaw tightened. "And they expect surrender. Just like every other world." She paused, staring at the stars. "They've never met humans. That will change." The crew on the bridge felt a shiver of excitement. The Intrepid was not the largest ship in the galaxy, and it certainly could not match a full Vorath fleet in brute strength. But humans had something no one else had: creativity, unpredictability, and courage. The Vorath had conquered worlds because they believed no one could oppose them. They had never met resistance. Lyra walked over to the tactical console. On the screen, a fleet of Vorath ships moved steadily toward the Hestara cluster, jagged black hulls glinting in the light of distant suns. The fleet looked terrifying, but she did not flinch. "Prepare the stealth arrays," she ordered. "I want our ship invisible to them until we strike. Jax, run simulations on every possible maneuver we can make in the asteroid belts of Hestara 5. There's a chance we can slow them down, maybe even take out a few ships before they know we exist." The crew scrambled. Alarms chimed, consoles beeped, and the ship hummed to life. Every hand on the bridge moved quickly, smoothly. This was not just a ship. It was a human machine, alive in a way that alien ships could not understand. Hours later, the Vorath fleet emerged from the dark. They moved in perfect formation, a river of black across space. Their flagship, the Dread Harbinger, led with silent authority. Its cannons were massive, capable of leveling a planet if needed. Smaller Vorath ships flanked it, each one designed for destruction. On the Intrepid, Lyra watched them with cold calculation. Stealth arrays are active. Weapon systems are armed. We strike when they enter the Hestara 5 asteroid belt. They won't see us coming. The asteroid belt was dense, with massive rocks spinning slowly in the void. It was dangerous for anyone, but humans had learned to use danger as a weapon. The Vorath fleet moved confidently, ignoring the asteroids as if the rocks were harmless toys. That overconfidence would be their first mistake. Lyra gave the order. The Intrepid slipped between asteroids, invisible and silent. Sensors tracked every Vorath ship, every weak point, every blind spot. The crew held their breath, but no one panicked. This was what humans did best: think, plan, and adapt in ways that no alien could predict. Then Lyra nodded. Now, the Intrepid struck. Small, concentrated bursts of energy hit the Vorath ships at points they did not expect. Shields flared and sparks flew. Several ships exploded silently as the energy struck critical systems. Panic rippled through the Vorath formation. "Commander, they're regrouping," Jack shouted. "They've never faced an attack like this." Lyra's lips curved into a small smile. "Exactly. Keep the pressure. Hit the blind spots. Keep them off balance." The Intrepid weaved through the asteroid belt, dodging enemy fire, striking and disappearing again. Every move was precise, every attack calculated to cause maximum confusion. The Vorath commanders barked orders, but their fleet was no longer a river of perfect death. It was a chaotic storm, stumbling under the sudden human assault. Hours passed. By the time the Vorath realized the attack was coming from a single small human destroyer, several of their ships were disabled. They had never imagined that one ship could cause so much damage. The humans were clever, unpredictable, and fearless, and worst of all, they had no intention of surrendering. In the Intrepid's command center, Lyra watched the chaos unfold. "Damage report?" she asked. Lieutenant Mara, the engineer, replied quickly. "Hull integrity is stable, Commander. Weapon systems fully operational. No critical damage. We're ready for the next strike." Lyra nodded. "Good. Prepare another maneuver. We hit them again at the cluster's edge. Keep them guessing." The Vorath, meanwhile, began to question everything they had known about the galaxy. Their fleets had conquered thousands of worlds without resistance. Every world had surrendered. They had never met a civilization willing to fight back, and now here it was. A single human destroyer, small and seemingly insignificant, was turning their perfect conquest into chaos. One Vorath commander, his black eyes wide in disbelief, muttered, They are different. Indeed, humans were different. They were unpredictable, fearless, and ingenious. And the Vorath had underestimated them. That mistake could cost the Empire more than they imagined. By the end of the day, the Vorath fleet had been forced to retreat from the asteroid belt, battered and confused. The Intrepid floated in the quiet of space, its crew exhausted but alive. They had done the impossible. They had struck fear into the hearts of the galaxy's most feared conquerors. Lyra stood on the bridge, looking at the stars. She knew this was only the beginning. The Vorath would return, stronger and angrier, but so would the humans. And the galaxy was about to learn a truth it had never known. Humans do not surrender. Humans do not retreat. And when humans stand, even the mightiest empire can falter. The silent conquerors had met resistance, and resistance, it seemed, was more powerful than they had ever imagined. The galaxy had never seen humans fight. Most civilizations assumed they were weak, fragile, and easily crushed. But the Vorath were about to learn the opposite. After their first encounter with the Intrepid, the Vorath were shaken. Their commanders had gathered in the flagship's bridge, glaring at the damage reports. The massive Vorath fleet had been forced into retreat, not because humans outnumbered them, they were far smaller, but because humans were clever. Every strike had been calculated, every move unpredictable. "We underestimated them," growled Admiral Korath, his voice echoing across the metal bridge. "A single ship. One tiny ship has destroyed 3 of ours. How is this possible?" The Vorath officers, usually calm and disciplined, murmured among themselves. "They are insignificant," one said cautiously. "Yet, they fight like nothing we have seen. Perhaps an anomaly." Admiral Korath's claws tightened on the console. "An anomaly we cannot ignore. Locate them. Destroy them. The galaxy will not allow this humiliation. Far from the Vorath fleet, Commander Lyra Hayes prepared the Intrepid for the next engagement. Her crew had barely rested after the first encounter. Sensors were still humming, weapons realigned, and energy systems checked. The humans worked, quickly, efficiently. Fear existed, of course, but it was focused, controlled, useful. It made them sharp, ready. Lieutenant Jax leaned over the tactical console. "Commander, reports from Hestara Cluster show Vorath warships heading toward the outer system. They're reorganizing. It looks like they are coming back. Bigger this time." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Good. Let them come. They'll think they know the battlefield. They'll think they can predict us. But humans? We're never predictable." The crew smiled faintly. That phrase had become almost a mantra among them. Against all odds, they had survived the first strike, and they were ready to turn the galaxy's expectations upside down. Hours later, the Vorath fleet returned. This time they were cautious. They moved in tighter formation, shields stronger and scanners more active, but they still assumed humans were weak. They assumed the Intrepid could not fight them seriously. That assumption would cost them dearly. As the Vorath ships entered the asteroid belt of Hestara 5, the Intrepid slipped into position. Lyra had studied the belt carefully. She knew every rock, every gravitational pull, every blind spot the Vorath would likely ignore. "Lieutenant Mara, prepare the forward disruptor cannon," Lyra ordered. "We hit their lead ship simultaneously. Make it clean. Make it fast." Mara's fingers flew over the console. "Forward cannon online. Targeting blind spots of Vorath lead formation. Firing sequence ready." The asteroid belt was dense, almost chaotic. Massive rocks spun slowly, creating hazards for any fleet trying to move quickly. The Vorath fleet assumed their shields could protect them, but the Intrepid used the rocks like tools. With careful timing, bursts of energy from the destroyer sent asteroids spinning into the path of Vorath ships, disabling engines and scrambling formation. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The first wave of blasts hit perfectly. The Vorath flagship shuddered as energy beams struck unshielded junctions. Smaller ships collided with asteroids. Alarms rang. Panic spread through the alien ranks like wildfire. On the Intrepid, the crew worked in perfect harmony. Each strike was precise, each maneuver unpredictable. Humans were not just fighting, they were dancing through danger, turning every hazard into an advantage. Lyra leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Keep them off balance. We don't just want to win. We want them confused. We want them afraid of a single human ship." The Vorath, in their arrogance, had never imagined this. A small, old-looking human destroyer was now dictating the flow of battle. They barked orders, tried to reorganize, but the human tactics were too unpredictable. Each attack came from a different direction. Every time they thought they found the Intrepid, it had vanished again. Admiral Korath's claws slammed on the console. "Concentrate fire on that ship. Use full power." "Commander," Jax shouted, "they've brought in reinforcements. 5 more cruisers are warping in." Lyra did not flinch. "Good. Let them come. We will be ready." The reinforcements arrived, massive and threatening. The Intrepid's sensors lit up with incoming ships, but humans had prepared for this. Every system was primed, every weapon ready. Lyra studied the fleet. Each ship had a blind spot, a weak point, a flaw. Humans had always looked for opportunity and disadvantage. "Lieutenant Mara, redirect energy to the lateral disruptors. Target the blind points of the new ships. Jax, coordinate evasive patterns. We hit, then disappear." The human ship moved like a shadow, weaving through the asteroids. Energy blasts struck Vorath ships from angles no alien had ever expected. Explosions rocked the void. Fires flared in space. Panic turned to fear. One of the Vorath commanders shouted, "This is impossible! One human ship cannot do this!" "They are not like us," Admiral Korath admitted reluctantly. "We must adapt or fail." Lyra smiled faintly at the chaos. On the sensor screen, humans were never like anyone else. That difference was their strength. That difference would make them a force the galaxy could not ignore. Hours turned into a tense battle. The Intrepid moved with precision, hitting, dodging, and confusing the Vorath fleet. Each attack was carefully planned but delivered unpredictably, leaving alien commanders frustrated and terrified. Finally, after long hours, the Vorath began to retreat. They had lost several ships, and their flagship had taken heavy damage. They had not expected resistance, and they had certainly not expected the humans' cleverness. Lyra allowed herself a moment to breathe. Her crew was exhausted but alive. They had survived another encounter. They had struck fear into the hearts of the galaxy's most feared conquerors. "Damage report," she said. Lieutenant Mara responded quickly. "Minor hull damage, Commander. Weapon systems are intact. Energy reserves stable. Crew is ready for the next engagement." Lyra nodded. "Good. Send a signal to the Hastara cluster inhabitants. Let them know humans are here. Let them know someone will fight for them." Across the galaxy, whispers began. Tales of a small human ship, capable of defeating entire fleets, spread quietly. Planets that had surrendered without resistance now held hope. The idea that the Vorath were unstoppable began to crumble. In the Vorath fleet, Admiral Karath stared at the reports in disbelief. "They are different. They do not fight like any species I have known. One ship, one human ship, has turned this battle into chaos." His second-in-command spoke carefully. "Perhaps we underestimated them, Admiral. Perhaps humanity is not to be ignored." Admiral Korath's claws tightened on the console. "Then we will find them again. And next time, we will not underestimate humans. We will destroy them." But humans did not fear the Vorath. They thrived on challenge, on danger, on the impossible. Commander Lyra Hayes knew this better than anyone. The galaxy had assumed humans would surrender, as everyone else had. The galaxy had assumed humans were weak, but assumptions could be deadly mistakes. The Intrepid floated in space, silent once more, hidden among the asteroids. The crew cleaned and repaired systems, shared quiet words, and prepared for the battles to come. Lyra looked at the stars, thinking about the Vorath and their arrogance. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "They think they are invincible. They think they can conquer without resistance. But humans, we do not surrender. And when we stand, even the mightiest empire can fall." The galaxy would soon learn this truth. The humans had arrived, not as pawns to be conquered, but as warriors, clever and fearless. And no fleet, no matter how powerful, could ignore them. The eyes' first contact was over. The battle had been won, but the war had only just begun. The Vorath had been forced to retreat. For the first time in decades, a civilization had resisted their conquest, and not just resisted, humans had caused significant damage with a single, small destroyer. The Vorath were furious, embarrassed, and confused. Admiral Korath paced the bridge of the Dread Harbinger. His black eyes flicked between displays showing the battered Vorath ships. "They are clever," he growled. "Too clever for their size. One ship, one human ship, has torn apart our formation. This cannot continue. Find their weaknesses." His officers, though uneasy, worked diligently. They analyzed every sensor, every recorded maneuver. The Vorath had studied hundreds of species, but humans were different. They did not act like others. They were unpredictable. Their strategy was chaos wrapped in precision. Meanwhile, far from the Vorath flagship, Commander Lyra Hayes and her crew were preparing for the next encounter. They had learned from the first battle that the Vorath would adapt, and humans needed to stay one step ahead. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Lyra studied the asteroid belt maps and fleet positions. "They will come back stronger," she said. We can't just react, we must control the battlefield. Lieutenant Jax frowned. But Commander, how? They will bring more ships next time. We can't match them in numbers. Lyra's eyes sparkled with determination. We don't need to match them in numbers. Humans never match. We outthink. We outmaneuver. We use what they do not expect. Let's prepare traps. Let's make them regret underestimating us. The crew nodded. Their confidence was quiet, but firm. They had seen what one human destroyer could do. Now, they would show the Vorath the full measure of human ingenuity. Lyra's plan centered on the Hestara 6 system, a region filled with asteroids, gravitational anomalies, and abandoned space stations. The Vorath would assume humans would avoid danger. They would assume humans could not survive the treacherous terrain. But humans thrived where others feared to tread. "Lieutenant Mara," Lyra said, "ready the adaptive weapons arrays. Targeting software will track enemy weak points. Automatically, I want maximum efficiency." Mara worked quickly, adjusting energy flow to ensure the weapons would strike precisely at the Vorath fleet's blind spots. "Arrays ready, Commander. We can hit multiple ships at once without exposing ourselves." Jax activated the stealth module. "We are invisible to standard Vorath sensors. They will never see us coming." Lyra nodded. "Perfect. Let's teach them what humans are capable of." The Vorath fleet emerged again, their black hulls glinting in the sunlight of distant stars. This time, they were cautious. Their formation was tighter, their shields stronger, their sensors more active, but they still assumed humans were weak. That assumption would be their downfall. As the Vorath ships entered the Hestara 6 asteroid field, the Intrepid slipped silently among the rocks. Its weapons arrays hummed softly. Humans were about to turn the field into a deadly maze for the aliens. "Lieutenant Jax," Lyra ordered, "deploy decoy drones. Make them think the fleet is larger than it is. Spread confusion." Jax activated the drones. Small, glowing devices mimicked the Intrepid's energy signature, creating multiple false targets. The Vorath scanned frantically, trying to identify the real human ship. Every second they hesitated, more of their ships became vulnerable. "Now, Mara," Lyra said. "Open fire." The forward disruptor cannon fired, striking Vorath cruisers at weak points. Engines overloaded, shields faltered, and ships collided with asteroids. Panic rippled through the Vorath fleet. Admiral Korath barked orders, but chaos had already taken root. Lyra guided the Intrepid through the asteroid field with precision. Each maneuver was calculated to maximize damage while avoiding enemy fire. Every asteroid, every gravitational pull became a weapon. The humans moved like a shadow, striking unpredictably, disappearing and striking again. Hours passed in tense, precise action. The Vorath began to understand that they could not predict human moves. Their formation was broken, their discipline faltering. Each human attack was clever, calculated, and unexpected. One Vorath commander shouted, "This is impossible! They are everywhere and nowhere at the same time." "They are humans," Korath admitted. "We have underestimated them. We cannot fight them like we fight others. We must change strategy." But changing strategy was not simple. The humans had already adapted to every predictable tactic. Every standard Vorath maneuver had been anticipated and countered. The Intrepid's crew had turned disadvantage into advantage, using the terrain, the environment, and the Vorath's own overconfidence against them. Lyra's plan went further than simple attacks. She had set traps in the asteroid field, left mines hidden in gravitational pockets, and rigged abandoned space stations to explode at precise moments. The Vorath had no idea what was coming. "Lieutenant Jax, signal the outer colonies," Lyra said. "Let them know humans are here. Let them know someone will fight for them." The signal spread quietly. Across human-occupied systems, news of a single destroyer facing the Vorath inspired hope. Civilians who had feared the Empire now saw that resistance was possible. Humans were not just fighting, they were showing the galaxy that even one determined ship could make a difference. Back in the battle, the Vorath fleet struggled. Their flagship was damaged, smaller ships disabled, and communication lines chaotic. Korath realized that brute force alone would not win. Humans did not play by the rules. They did not fear danger. They adapted and survived against impossible odds. Lyra watched the sensors carefully. Another Vorath cruiser approached, larger than the rest, with heavy weaponry. "They've brought reinforcements," Jack said. Lyra smirked. "Good. Let them come. Every new ship is another target. Every new move is an opportunity." As the cruiser entered the asteroid belt, the Intrepid executed a bold maneuver. Using a combination of stealth, energy bursts, and asteroid collisions, Lyra disabled the cruiser's engines and shields. The ship drifted helplessly, while the humans struck repeatedly at vulnerable points. One by one, Vorath ships fell. Their fleet was strong, disciplined, and massive, but humans were smarter. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were dangerous in ways the Vorath had never imagined. Hours later, the Vorath were forced to retreat once more. The Intrepid floated silently among the asteroids, hidden, victorious, but aware that this was only the beginning. The Vorath would return, angrier, stronger, and more determined. But so would the humans. Lyra walked through the command center, checking on her crew. Exhaustion showed on their faces, but determination shone brighter. They had survived impossible odds. They had turned a small ship into a symbol of hope. "Damage report," Lyra said. Lieutenant Mara responded, "Minor hull damage, Commander. Weapons fully operational. Crew ready for the next engagement." Lyra nodded. "Good. Humans do not surrender. We do not retreat, and the galaxy will remember that." Across the stars, whispers spread. Tales of a small human destroyer, capable of outsmarting and destroying Vorath ships, inspired hope in humans and fear in the Empire. The galaxy was beginning to see humans as more than fragile prey. They were clever, brave, and dangerous. In the Vorath flagship, Admiral Korath stared at the report's frustration and anger simmering. "They are different. We must destroy them next time. We cannot allow humans to disrupt our empire." But humans did not fear the Vorath. They thrived on challenge, on danger, on the impossible. Commander Lyra Hayes and her crew knew the Vorath would return, but so would the humans, smarter, braver, and more prepared. The galaxy had begun to learn a new truth. Humans were not just survivors. Humans were warriors. And when humans fought, even the mightiest fleets could fall. The human advantage was simple. They never stopped thinking, never stopped adapting, and never stopped fighting. Against them, no empire could rely on brute strength alone. The first victories had been won. But the war, this war against the Vorath, was only beginning. The galaxy watched silently as the Vorath regrouped. For decades, no species had dared defy them. But now, one human destroyer had shattered their confidence and humiliated their fleets. The Intrepid had proven that even the smallest human ship could bring fear to the mighty empire. Admiral Korath was furious. On the bridge of the Dread Harbinger, he slammed his clawed hands against the console. "This is unacceptable," he growled. "We have underestimated humans for too long. They are clever, unpredictable, dangerous. But they will pay." His officers, still shaken from previous encounters, nodded quickly. The Vorath fleet would return, stronger and deadlier than ever. This time they would bring their ultimate weapon, the Oblivion, a massive flagship designed to crush entire fleets with a single volley. Meanwhile, Commander Lyra Hayes studied the sensors aboard the Intrepid. She knew the Vorath would escalate. They had underestimated humans once, and that mistake would not be repeated. But humans thrived in adversity. They had survived impossible odds before, and they would survive again. Lieutenant Jax leaned over the tactical console. "Commander, Vorath reinforcements are approaching fast. The Oblivion is leading them. Its firepower. It's immense. One shot could destroy us." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Then we make sure they don't get that shot. Prepare the traps we set in the asteroid field. Make the battlefield our ally. Every advantage counts." The Intrepid's crew moved quickly. Energy was redirected to shields, weapons arrays were tested, and stealth modules recalibrated. Mara checked the forward disruptor cannon one last time. "All systems ready, Commander. We can hit multiple targets simultaneously." Lyra nodded. "Good. Remember, we are outnumbered but never outsmarted. We will strike where they least expect it." As the Vorath fleet entered the Hestara 6 asteroid field, the humans waited. The field was dense, chaotic, and dangerous, but it was their advantage. The Vorath assumed humans would avoid the risk. That assumption was wrong. "Deploy the decoy drones," Lyra ordered. "Make them think we are scattered across the belt. Spread confusion." The drones floated into space, glowing with the same energy signature as the Intrepid. The Vorath scanned frantically, trying to identify the real ship. Meanwhile, the humans maneuvered silently, using the asteroids as cover, weaving between rocks and gravitational anomalies. "Lieutenant Jax," Lyra said, "ready the lateral disruptor arrays. Target the flagship's weak points. Timing is critical." Jax's fingers flew over the controls. "Arrays ready, Commander. Targeting the Oblivion's hull and shield junctions. Firing sequence primed." Lyra took a deep breath. "Wait for my signal. Then we strike." The Oblivion moved through the asteroid field like a massive predator, confident in its size and firepower. Smaller Vorath ships flanked it, ready to crush any resistance. But humans had turned the field into a deadly trap. Every asteroid, every abandoned station, every gravitational pocket was a weapon waiting to be used. Lyra watched carefully. The Vorath fleet moved cautiously, but they were too focused on the Intrepid's last known location. They did not notice the hidden mines, the automated energy bursts, or the perfectly timed asteroid collisions prepared by the humans. "Now," Lyra whispered. The Intrepid fired. Energy beams struck the Oblivion's hull at weak points. The flagship shuddered as shields faltered. Smaller ships collided with asteroids, engines overloaded, and panic spread through the Vorath ranks. The humans had predicted every move, turning the Vorath's confidence into chaos. Admiral Korath roared in anger. "Destroy that ship! Do not let it survive!" But the Intrepid was already moving. Lyra had plotted an escape through a narrow, gravitational pocket, a path no Vorath ship could follow without damage. The humans vanished from sensors, leaving the Vorath confused and vulnerable. "Lieutenant Mara, redirect energy to the forward disruptor cannon. We hit them again from the shadows," Lyra ordered. Mara's fingers moved swiftly. "Cannon primed, Commander. Ready to fire." The humans struck again, this time targeting critical power conduits on the Vorath flagship. Explosions rocked the Oblivion, and its massive guns faltered. The Vorath fleet, already in disarray, began to retreat. One by one, their ships fell to carefully aimed human strikes. On the bridge of the Intrepid, the crew held their breath. Each move was dangerous, but precise. Humans thrived under pressure, and this was the ultimate test. Lyra's mind worked faster than anyone could follow, calculating angles, timing, and energy flow. Hours passed, and the battle raged. The Vorath flagship, battered and confused, tried to regroup. Smaller ships moved to protect it, but the humans anticipated every move. The asteroid field became a labyrinth of destruction for the aliens, while the humans used it like a shield and weapon combined. Finally, the Oblivion faltered, its massive guns overheated, engines damaged, and shields collapsing. The Vorath fleet was in chaos. They had underestimated the humans once again, and now they faced the consequences. Lyra watched the sensors closely. "Lieutenant Jax, target their command center with the disruptor cannon. Precision only. One shot can disable the flagship." Jax nodded, hands steady. "Target locked, Commander. Ready to fire." Lyra took a deep breath. "Fire." The beam struck the Oblivion's command center. A massive explosion rocked the flagship. Alarms screamed across the Vorath fleet. Panic turned into retreat. Ships fled in disarray, abandoning the battlefield. Humans had done the impossible. They had crippled the most powerful ship in the Vorath Empire with a single strike. On the Intrepid, the crew cheered quietly. They had survived, they had won, and they had proven that even against overwhelming odds, humans could turn the tide. Lyra allowed herself a moment to breathe. "Damage report," she said. Lieutenant Mara responded, "Minor hull damage, Commander. Weapons operational. Crew ready for the next engagement." Lyra nodded. "Good. We will not stop. Humans do not surrender. Humans do not retreat. And we will continue to fight for those who cannot." Across the galaxy, the news spread quietly. The Vorath had been defeated, not completely, but enough to shatter their aura of invincibility. Planets that had surrendered without resistance now held hope. The galaxy began to see humans not as fragile prey, but as clever, brave, and dangerous warriors. In the Vorath fleet, Admiral Korath stared at the reports. Frustration and rage boiled within him. Humans. They are different. We cannot fight them like we fight others. We must learn. We must adapt, or we will fail. But humans had already adapted. They had survived impossible odds before, and they would survive again. Commander Lyra Hayes and her crew had shown that intelligence, courage, and clever tactics could overcome brute force. The galaxy had begun to learn a new truth. Even the mightiest fleet could fall against humans who refused to surrender. The war was far from over. The Vorath would return, stronger and angrier. But so would the humans, and the galaxy would watch as one small destroyer continued to defy the greatest empire it had ever known. The human advantage was simple: creativity, courage, and unpredictability. Against them, no empire could rely on power alone. Humans did. Not fight like anyone else, and that difference would make them unstoppable. Lyra looked at her crew and smiled faintly. "We have turned the tide today. But the war is not over. They will come back. We must be ready. Humans always are." The Intrepid floated silently in space, hidden among the asteroids. Its crew rested, repaired systems, and prepared for the next challenge. The galaxy had seen a glimpse of human power, and no one would forget it. The Vorath had conquered worlds without resistance for decades, but now one human destroyer had shown them the cost of arrogance, the danger of underestimating humanity, and the galaxy would never forget that humans did not surrender. The galaxy was silent, watching. The Vorath Empire, feared for centuries, had faced a single human destroyer and been forced to retreat. But the humans knew the worst was not over. The Vorath were enraged. They would return with more ships, more firepower, and a resolve to crush humanity once and for all. Commander Lyra Hayes stood on the bridge of the Intrepid, staring at the starfield. Her crew moved quietly around her, ready, alert. Every sensor reading, every blip on the map mattered. The Vorath would come, and this time they would bring their ultimate weapon, the Oblivion, fully repaired and even more powerful than before. Lieutenant Jax approached, his voice tense. "Commander, the Vorath fleet is warping into the Hestara system. They're bringing everything. The Oblivion is leading the charge. If they hit with full power, we might not survive." Lyra's eyes narrowed, determination blazing. Then we make them regret underestimating humans again. Prepare the traps. Use the asteroid field, the abandoned stations, every advantage we have. They think they can crush us with sheer size. Let's show them size doesn't matter when humans fight smart. The crew worked with focused precision. Systems were checked, weapons aligned, shields boosted. Mara tested the forward disruptor cannon, Jax ran simulations of Vorath maneuvers, and every crew member prepared for the battle that would decide the galaxy's future. The Vorath fleet entered the Hestara system, a river of black ships stretching, as far as the eye could see. At its center loomed the Oblivion, massive and deadly. Its guns could obliterate planets. Its shields were almost impenetrable, and its crew was ruthless. The Vorath believed this battle would end quickly. They believed humans could not fight. They were wrong. Lyra's plan was daring, risky, and precise. The asteroid field was filled with hidden mines, gravitational traps, and automated drones. The humans would use the Vorath's confidence against them, striking where no one would expect. Every asteroid, every abandoned station, every shadow in space became a weapon. Deploy the decoy drones, Lyra ordered. Make them think the Intrepid is scattered. Spread confusion. Jax activated the drones, sending them floating through the field. Each emitted an energy signature identical to the Intrepid. The Vorath scanned frantically, trying to locate the human ship. Meanwhile, the Intrepid moved silently among the asteroids, invisible and deadly. "Lieutenant Mara," Lyra said, "forward disruptor cannon. Target the Oblivion's weak points. Timing is everything. We strike together, and we strike hard." Mara's fingers flew over the controls. "Ready, Commander. Targeting junctions on shields and power conduits. Firing sequence primed." The humans waited. Seconds felt like hours. Then, Lyra gave the order. "Fire!" Energy beams shot from the Intrepid, striking the Oblivion's weak points. Shields flared, hull plating buckled, and alarms screamed across the Vorath flagship. Smaller Vorath ships scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The humans had struck with precision, chaos spreading through the fleet. Admiral Korath bellowed, in anger, "Destroy that ship! Do not let it survive!" But the Intrepid moved again, weaving through the asteroid field with flawless precision. Every maneuver had been calculated, every strike anticipated. The humans were a shadow, impossible to predict, impossible to hit. The Vorath flagship fired its massive cannons, but the shots missed or were deflected by the asteroid field. One human maneuver after another turned danger into advantage. The Intrepid struck again, hitting vital power conduits on the Oblivion. The massive guns faltered, shields weakened, and the flagship shuddered under the assault. Lyra's heart pounded. The stakes could not have been higher. "Lieutenant Jax," she shouted, "target their command center. One precise strike can end this." Jax nodded. "Locked and ready, Commander." Lyra gave the final order. "Fire!" The disruptor cannon hit the Oblivion's command center with perfect precision. The massive flagship rocked violently. Explosions tore through the hull. Alarms screamed. Panic spread through the Vorath fleet. Ships turned, fled, or collided. The mighty Vorath Empire was crumbling, not because of numbers, but because of human ingenuity. The crew of the Intrepid worked flawlessly, dodging debris, redirecting energy to shields, and preparing for the next strike. Humans thrived under pressure. Fear sharpened their focus, not paralyzed it. They had faced impossible odds before, and they would survive again. Hours passed in tense, precise battle. The Vorath were desperate, their fleet in disarray. One by one, their ships fell to careful, clever human strikes. The galaxy had never seen a single ship defeat so many powerful vessels. Finally, the Oblivion faltered completely. Its massive guns offline, engines crippled, and shields gone. The remaining Vorath ships fled, abandoning the battlefield. Humans had done the impossible. They had destroyed the most powerful ship in the Vorath Empire and forced their fleet to retreat. Lyra allowed herself a moment to breathe. She looked at her crew, exhausted but alive. "Damage report," she said. Lieutenant Mara answered, "Minor hull damage, Commander. Weapons fully operational. Crew ready for the next engagement." Lyra nodded. "Good. We have survived and we have won today, but the galaxy is watching. Humans do not surrender. Humans do not retreat. And we will continue to fight for those who cannot." Across human-occupied systems, news of the Intrepid's victories spread. Civilians who had once feared the Vorath now held hope. One small, human ship had stood against the Empire and won. It was a symbol of courage, cleverness, and the unstoppable spirit of humanity. In the Vorath fleet, Admiral Korath stared at the reports, rage and disbelief mixing. "Humans. They are different. We underestimated them, and now we have paid the price. But this is not over. We will return. We must learn from our mistakes, or our empire will crumble." But humans did not fear the Vorath. They thrived on challenge, on danger, and on the impossible. Commander Lyra Hayes and her crew had proven that intelligence, courage, and clever tactics could overcome even the greatest empire. The galaxy had learned a truth it would never forget. Humans, when cornered, could rise stronger than anyone imagined. The Intrepid floated silently in the aftermath of battle, hidden among the asteroids. Its crew rested briefly, repaired systems, and prepared for whatever came next. The galaxy had seen humans fight and survive against impossible odds. They had seen one small ship take on an empire and win. The Vorath had conquered worlds without resistance for centuries. They had believed no one could oppose them, but one human destroyer had shattered that belief. The galaxy would never forget that humans did not surrender. Humans did not retreat. Humans stood tall, clever, and brave. Lyra looked at her crew and smiled faintly. "Today we have won, but the war continues. They will return. But humans never back down." The stars stretched endlessly before them. Among the vastness of space, the Intrepid and its crew floated silently, ready for the next challenge. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Underestimate humanity, and you will pay the price. And the Vorath, once feared as unstoppable conquerors, had learned the hard way that humans were different. Clever, fearless, and unstoppable when cornered. The Intrepid was small, but it carried the spirit of an entire species. A species that refused to bow, refused to surrender, and refused to be underestimated. The war against the Vorath was not over. But one thing was certain. Humanity had shown the galaxy that even against the greatest empire, cleverness, courage, and determination could turn the tide. And humans would always stand tall,